The property manager, Arthur Thorne, was pushing the neighbors to dig out a massive basement complex. He was looking for a kickback, promising everyone it would skyrocket our property values. But as a geologist with 10 years of field experience, I saw the truth immediately. There was a high-pressure subterranean aquifer right beneath our foundations. If they broke the seal, the entire gated community would collapse into a sinkhole. In my previous life, I went door to door, begging them to listen. They called me crazy. I eventually called the police to force a construction halt, saving us from a total disaster. But Arthur turned everyone against me. It was that busybody geologist. She's just jealous of our profits and cut off our road to wealth. The mob was furious. He led a group of homeowners to my front door. In the chaos, Arthur grabbed my son, Leo, and sprinted toward the balcony. He let go. My little boy fell from the 10th floor. The neighbors stood in a united front, lying to the police. They all claimed the child was just playing and accidentally slipped. My world was destroyed. With nothing left to live for, I chose to end my life. But then I opened my eyes. I was back at that fateful homeowners meeting. This time, as the property manager ranted about the gold mine beneath our feet, I was the first one to clap. Mr. Thorne is absolutely right. I suggest we don't just dig. We should go even deeper. Let's all get rich together. Nora Sterling, do you have something to say this time? Arthur Thorne tapped the table impatiently. Last time, you were the only one causing trouble and stopping everyone from making money. Hearing those exact words again made my head spin. Memories of my past life rushed back like a tidal wave. After I died, my soul had lingered above the pavement. Leo was lying on the cold concrete in a pool of blood, his tiny body broken. I had screamed trying to pick him up, but I only passed through him like mist. In that life, I had stood up at this very meeting to stop them. The hydrology of this area is complex. There's a high-pressure underground river. I had warned. If you dig 3 levels down, you'll breach the confining layer. The pressure will destroy the foundation, and the whole building will collapse. But Arthur had pointed a finger at my face. Nora, stop with the fear-mongering. The crew we hired are the real professionals. My neighbor, Brenda Vance, had chimed in too. Exactly. Stop holding us back. Do you know how much the property value will jump with extra parking? Arthur's voice was still echoing in the room, full of fake passion. If we dig 3 levels down, every unit gets at least 1 more spot. You can even rent out the extras. This isn't just about convenience. It's about asset appreciation. I guarantee the prices in Azure Bay Estates will double within 3 years. Leo's small hand gripped my shirt. He could sense my body was stiff with tension. Mommy, what's wrong? I looked at his sweet, living face, and my heart felt like it was being shredded. The neighbors were already completely sold on Arthur's lies. Arthur is right. Parking spots are worth more than cars these days. It's way too crowded here. We should have dug years ago. Brenda was the first to stand up and support him. I've been saying this forever. I'm with Mr. Thorne. This is a win for all of us. I closed my eyes. When I opened them, every ounce of grief was locked away. Seeing me silent for so long, Brenda rolled her eyes and took another shot at me. Nora, do you just hate seeing us succeed? Arthur is doing us a favor. Can you stop being so negative for once? Do you think you're the only expert? You think you know more than a professional construction crew? The surrounding neighbors began to whisper and sneer. She's always like this. Remember when she opposed the elevator upgrade? Claiming it would affect the load-bearing walls. Her family only has 1 car, so she doesn't care. We have 3. We're sick of looking for street parking every night. So selfish. How did someone like her even end up in our neighborhood? Amidst the noise, I slowly stood up. Everyone's eyes locked onto me. They expected me to start my usual lecture. Arthur's brow furrowed in annoyance. Instead, I broke into a wide smile and started clapping loudly. The sound of my applause was sharp in the quiet meeting room. Everyone froze. I raised my voice, my tone more enthusiastic than I had ever been. Mr. Thorne is right. I support this 100%. Let's dig early and let everyone get rich. The room fell silent as my words landed. Leo looked up at me, his eyes full of confusion. Mommy, didn't you say there would be a flood? I patted his back gently, signaling him to be quiet. Arthur's annoyance shifted into pure shock. Nora, you actually mean that? His voice was cautious, testing the waters. Of course, I said, raising my chin. I was wrong before. I was too focused on the risks and forgot about the rewards. With a manager like Mr. Thorne looking out for us, what is there to worry about? The neighbors started nodding along. See? I knew she'd see sense eventually. Exactly. Who would turn down a pile of cash? The suspicion in Arthur's eyes vanished, replaced by a smug grin. He cleared his throat and pulled a stack of documents from his briefcase. Since we're all in agreement, to avoid any legal disputes and ensure a smooth project, I need everyone to sign this voluntary investment agreement for the underground complex. He added a little kicker at the end. Once you sign, Please head to the office to pay the $50,000 initial investment. The sooner we have the funds, the sooner we break ground. The neighbors scrambled toward the front like a pack of hungry wolves. Me first. Let me sign. Don't push. I've got the money ready. Brenda shot me a look of triumph as she shoved her way to the front to sign and pay. I held the agreement in my hands. My fingertips were ice cold. In my last life, because of my protests, it never got this far. I didn't realize Arthur had prepared a legal shield to dodge all responsibility. Nora, are you done reading? If there's no issue, sign it. Don't waste our time. Arthur saw me standing still and frowned. I placed the agreement back on the table without picking up the pen. My family won't be participating in the investment this time. Arthur's smile died instantly. What? Why? The other neighbors stopped what they were doing and glared at me. What the hell do you mean? You just said you supported us. Are you playing games? Brenda was the first to jump out, pointing a finger at my nose. I put on a troubled, pained expression. Please don't misunderstand. I support Mr. Thorne in spirit. I want everyone to succeed. I sighed, pulling Leo close to me. But my little Leo. Sigh. This poor child has terrible health. He has chronic asthma and is deathly allergic to dust. If construction starts, the air will be full of debris. I'm terrified he'll have an attack. The doctor said his condition can be life-threatening if it gets triggered. I hugged Leo tight. I was thinking, for his health, we should move out for a few years during the construction. Since we won't be living here, the parking spot won't do us any good. So we won't be putting up the $50,000. Once you guys have finished building everything, we'll move back. It won't affect anyone. I'm just trying not to be a burden. Leo took the cue and let out 2 small, forced coughs. Mommy, I don't want to breathe the dust. My explanation left Arthur and the mob speechless. The room began to buzz with actual conversation. Asthma is a nightmare, especially for kids. If she's moving out for her kids' health, it makes sense why she wouldn't pay. Come to think of it, the construction will be a mess for the elderly and children too. Some of the homeowners who were already on the fence began to hesitate. Brenda panicked. Her voice turned shrill as she shouted, "What asthma? That's just a pathetic excuse to keep her money. You think your kid is special? Just deal with it. Don't you dare ruin this for us." But her words didn't have the same bite. An older woman hesitated. "Mr. Thorne, my grandson's lungs aren't great either. Maybe we shouldn't participate? Yeah, $50,000 is a lot. If the kid gets sick, the hospital bills will be even more." The situation was slipping out of his control. Arthur's face turned a bruised shade of purple. He slammed his folder onto the table with a loud bang. "Everyone must participate. We are a community. The appreciation of this property is in everyone's best interest." Arthur glared at me, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Nora, if you back out now, how do you think the other neighbors will feel? You're destroying our unity. You're trying to be the exception." He took a deep breath and started the moral blackmail. "This isn't up for debate. The agreement must be signed and the money must be paid. Nora, I'm asking you to look at the big picture." The neighbors looked at each other. Many of them began to flip-flop again. Arthur is right. This is a group effort. You can't just opt out. Exactly, Nora. Don't be so selfish. Are you really going to ruin your relationship with your neighbors over 50 grand? "Oh, and I almost forgot to tell you the good news," Arthur said, tilting his chin up. "Our renovation plan has caught the attention of the city officials. The city council said we're the gold standard for neighborhood revitalization. Once the project is done, we'll be designated as a model community. At that point, not only will prices surge, but the local elementary school will be upgraded to a top-tier magnet school." The room erupted into chaos. "What? The school is becoming a magnet school? Oh my God, that's incredible. No wonder Arthur was so insistent. He's doing this for our children's future." The parents who were wavering a second ago suddenly lost their minds. Their eyes shone with greed as they shoved their way forward. "Sign it. We're signing. We have to. Mr. Thorne, for the kids, we'll sell our souls to support you." Arthur was beaming. He started organizing the line again. "Line up, everyone. One by one. Don't rush." Brenda was practically glowing with malice. "Nora, are you still not signing? You're about to ruin your son's entire life. My family spent years trying to get my kid into a magnet school with no luck. Now the chance is right here, and you want to throw it away." Leo and I were being pushed around by the frantic crowd. In my last life, Arthur never used this excuse. This was a lie he had crafted just to force my hand. I knew the disaster was less than a month away. I looked at these blinded people and felt a cold smirk forming in my heart. I couldn't stay here any longer. While everyone was swarming Arthur, I grabbed Leo's hand and headed for the back door. "Shh, Leo. Stay close to Mommy. Hey, look. Nora is trying to run." Brenda's voice pierced through the room. Everyone turned their heads to stare at us. Arthur's face darkened into a mask of pure rage. "Nora, Don't make this difficult for yourself. A surge of anger boiled in my brain. I stopped and shielded Leo behind me. Mr. Thorne, watch your tone. I've made it very clear. Due to my son's health, we are choosing not to participate. The agreement says voluntary. Is that just for show? Who gave you the right to just walk away? Arthur shrieked. The community's interest is everyone's interest. The school upgrade benefits all the kids. Your son's grades are average anyway. Now that you have this chance, you're dragging us down instead of being grateful. What's your angle? I think you're just here to sabotage us. Brenda pointed at my nose again, her face twisted. Sign the damn paper and pay the money. Stop embarrassing yourself. The neighbors started shouting insults at me from all sides. So selfish. I've never seen anyone this greedy. Exactly. Throwing away her kid's future for $50,000. Leo was terrified by the mob and started crying. I tried to push my way out, but they blocked every exit. Get out of the way. Let us through. I was getting desperate, pushing back against them. In the scramble, Brenda stuck her foot out and kicked my shin hard. I let out a sharp cry of pain and hit the floor. Mommy, are you okay? Leo sobbed, rushing over to try and help me up. I gritted my teeth against the pain and looked up. Arthur and the crowd were looking down at me with cold, dead eyes. It was the same look they gave me in my last life when they drove me to my death. Stop faking it. A little fall isn't going to kill you, Brenda spat. Arthur looked at me and spoke with chilling indifference. You asked for this. This is what happens to selfish people. I'm making this clear right now. You are paying that money, whether you like it or not. If you dare to skip out and ruin our kids' education, I'm coming for you. Neither of you is leaving this room until it's settled. Leo was trembling in my arms. Mommy, maybe we should just. No, Leo. We aren't backing down. I wiped his tears and cut him off. We didn't do anything wrong. I held up my bleeding elbow, my gaze sweeping across every face in the room. Is this your community spirit? Hurting people for the sake of the collective. I let out a harsh laugh. If this is what your group is like, I don't want any part of it. Arthur didn't expect me to stay this defiant. He turned red with fury. What did you just say? I took a deep breath, stood up slowly, and spoke every word with absolute clarity. I'll say it again. We aren't signing. We aren't paying. I'm putting this house on the market immediately. The room went dead silent for a heartbeat. Then Brenda burst out laughing. She held her stomach, cackling like a maniac. Sell the house. Who would buy your piece of crap place? Everyone knows we're renovating, and the price is about to skyrocket. Arthur joined in with a cold sneer. I'm warning you now. Don't come crying back to buy it when the basement is done and the prices have doubled. You want to sell? I'm telling you, with one phone call, I'll make sure no real estate agent in this city touches your listing. Brenda kept up her nasty commentary. You think selling a house is like playing house? You're delusional. I ignored them, my fingers tapping rapidly on my phone screen. Actually, it's funny you say that. I happen to know someone who's been dying to buy this place. And look at that, I found his number. Arthur and Brenda looked at me like I was an idiot. Brenda laughed even harder. Sure. Go ahead and call him. I want to see how long you can keep up this act. She couldn't believe that a woman who couldn't even cough up $50,000 could possibly know anyone important. Under the watchful eyes of the mob, I dialed a number. I hit the speakerphone. A deep, steady male voice answered, sounding pleasantly surprised. Nora. At the sound of that voice, Arthur's body visibly jolted. His face went pale. He stared at my phone like he was seeing a ghost. I spoke calmly. Mr. Montgomery, it's me. I've decided to sell Unit 1401 in Building 12 at Azure Bay. You mentioned you were interested before. Are you still looking to buy? On the other end, Caleb Montgomery let out a low chuckle. Absolutely. I've been waiting for this call for a long time. Nora, you finally saw sense. Why would you stay in that dump? I've been trying to get you and Leo out of there forever. Tell you what, I won't even haggle. Market price plus 20%. How does that sound? I'll have my legal team draft the papers right now. I'll be at your place in an hour to sign. It'll be a cash offer. The neighbors were completely stunned. They traded looks of pure shock. Mr. Montgomery. Everyone in this city knew Caleb Montgomery, the titan behind Montgomery Real Estate Group. He was the kind of man who could collapse the local market just by sneezing. And I was talking to him like an old friend, casually selling him my home. From Caleb's tone, it was obvious we were close. Brenda's face went white, her body beginning to shake. Arthur looked like he was about to faint. He gripped the table for support, sweat pouring down his forehead. Leo smiled wide. Mommy, was that Uncle Caleb? Are we really moving? Yay. I ruffled his hair, then looked up at Arthur and Brenda. Mr. Thorne, Mrs. Vance, do I still need to pay that $50,000? Is my house still unsellable? I paused for effect. As for your precious school upgrade and the property values, that's really not my problem anymore, is it? I shoved past the frozen neighbors and pulled open the conference room doors. Arthur snapped his head up, his eyes bloodshot. He screamed at the top of his lungs. You can't sell. You can't sell. Arthur Thorne's voice shattered as he lunged across the conference table, his knuckles slamming against the polished wood. This is an active community revitalization zone. You selling at a 20% premium destabilizes the entire neighborhood's appraisal framework. I stopped at the doorway, my hand resting on the brass handle, and turned my head just enough to catch his twitching eye in the fluorescent light. Mr. Thorne, my property title is unencumbered. I owe no dues, there are no liens on my deed, and until your imaginary shovels break ground, I have the absolute constitutional right to sell my private asset to whomever I choose. You're sabotaging us, Brenda screamed, her face contorted in a mask of hysterical rage as she scrambled past the chairs to stand beside Arthur. She's doing this to ruin our leverage. If Montgomery buys her place, he'll own a piece of our profit. He's a corporate shark. He'll squeeze us out. Then don't let him in, I replied with a faint, chilling smile. Buy me out. Yourselves. Match Caleb's offer right now. Market price plus 20%. That's $620,000 cash. Who's pulling out their checkbook? The room went deathly silent. The same neighbors who had been eager to toss $50,000 into Arthur's secret pot suddenly looked down at their shoes. $600,000 in liquid cash was a completely different beast. Brenda opened her mouth, closed it, and took an awkward step backward. That's what I thought, I said softly. Before Arthur could find another legal lie to spew, heavy, authoritative footsteps echoed down the tiled hallway outside. The double glass doors of the community center were pushed open by two burly men in tailored dark gray suits, Caleb Montgomery's private security detail. Behind them walked Caleb himself. He was 42 tall, impeccably groomed, wearing a dark navy Brioni suit that cost more than Arthur's annual salary. His sharp gray eyes scanned the cheap, crowded room with instant, casual disdain. Before landing on me and Leo. Nora, Caleb said, his voice deep and warm as he completely ignored the 60 people staring at him. He knelt down smoothly in front of Leo, pulling a small, ribbon-tied box from his coat pocket. Hey there, little man. I brought those custom wooden train cars you asked for. Uncle Caleb. Leo cheered, his previous terror melting away instantly as he took the box. Arthur stepped forward, trying to force a professional posture, though sweat was dripping down his collar. Mr. Montgomery, I am Arthur Thorne, the chief property manager of Azure Bay Estates. I must inform you that as the head of the Homeowners Association, any private transfer of deed within this complex requires a 30-day review period. Caleb stood up to his full 6'2" height, slowly turning his gaze toward Arthur. The warmth vanished from his face, replaced by the freezing indifference of a man who owned half the city's skyline. Mr. Thorne, Caleb said smoothly, pulling a crisp leather folder from his assistant's hands. My legal team pulled the municipal filings for Azure Bay Estates 15 minutes ago. Your HOA charter expired 2 years ago due to non-renewal of public liability filings. You currently operate as an unregistered advisory board with zero statutory authority to restrict deed transfers. Arthur's mouth fell open. His face turned from red to a terrifying, pale gray. Furthermore, Caleb continued, stepping closer to Arthur until the manager had to tilt his head up. If you or any person in this room attempts to harass, intimidate, or physically obstruct Ms. Sterling and her son while she vacates her residence tonight, my corporate litigation firm will file individual civil suits against every single person present for tortious interference and unlawful restraint. Caleb turned back to me, offering his arm. The notary is waiting in my car. Nora, your cashier's check is drawn and certified. Shall we? Let's go, I said, holding Leo's hand. As we walked out of the room, I caught one last glimpse of Brenda Vance. She was staring at me with a mix of raw jealousy, confusion, and lingering spite. But behind her eyes, a tiny seed of doubt had finally been planted. She didn't know it yet, but that seed was about to be watered by a high-pressure underground river. By midnight, the sale was finalized. $620,000 sat securely in my private money market account. Caleb's logistics crew had arrived in 3 large moving vans, packing up our clothes, Leo's toys, my geological research equipment, and our family heirlooms. By 2 a.m., Leo and I were settled into the top-floor penthouse of the Grand Crest Apartments, a brand-new, steel-reinforced luxury tower built directly on solid granite bedrock, owned entirely by Montgomery Real Estate. Standing on the vast balcony, looking out at the glittering lights of the city, I pulled up my laptop and opened the remote monitoring portal for Azure Bay Estates. Before leaving, I had installed 3 microseismic sensors near the boundary wall of Building 12, disguised as solar-powered garden lights. As a professional geologist, Tracking subsurface vibrations was second nature to me. For the next 2 weeks, the data feeds were quiet. But on the third Monday, the sensors spiked. Arthur had officially brought in the heavy machinery. Through the community's private WeChat group, which I had forgotten to leave, and which they had forgotten to remove me from, I watched the madness unfold in real time. Brenda Vance. Video. Look at those big excavators. Mr. Thorne said the heavy digging started today. Goodbye dirty parking struggles. Hello instant equity. Party popper. Neighbor Chun. Unit 1102. Is it normal for the floor in the lobby to vibrate this much? My hanging lamp is shaking. Arthur Thorne, property manager. Everyone please remain calm. High power hydraulic drills are necessary to breach the hard upper shale layer. This is proof of our crew's professional efficiency. The deeper we go, the more valuable our spots become. I zoomed in on the short video clip Brenda had posted. My blood ran cold, not out of fear for myself, but out of sheer awe at human stupidity. The contractor Arthur had hired was a cheap, unregistered company called Apex Earthworks, a firm known in the industry for taking illegal shortcuts and forging structural safety reports. In the video, their heavy rotary drill was operating less than 10 feet from the primary load-bearing foundation wall of Building 12. Worse, the slurry coming out of the borehole wasn't dry shale dust. It was dark, wet liquefied mud. They had already punched through the upper aquitard, the natural clay barrier, keeping the subterranean river contained. The only thing keeping the ocean of water under their feet from erupting was the temporary mechanical pressure of the drill bit itself. I stared at the screen, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. In my past life, I would have sprinted back there, waved my charts in their faces, screamed until my throat bled, and called every news station in the state. And in my past life, that kindness had cost my son his life. I slowly pulled my hands away from the keyboard. I opened my private file folder titled The Current Dataset, Azure-based Structural Failure Log, and saved the incoming seismic telemetry to a cloud drive. Mommy, Leo's sweet voice called out from his bedroom. Can you read me a story? I closed the laptop, walked into his bright, quiet room and kissed his forehead. Of course, baby. What do you want to read? The one about the mountain that stayed strong, he smiled. I tucked the blanket around him, my heart completely at peace. Once upon a time, there was a very strong mountain. By the third week of construction, the WeChat group turned into a war zone, though not for the reason Arthur feared. Neighbor Zhao, Unit 1201. Why is there 2 inches of muddy water in the basement storage lockers? My vintage wine collection is ruined. Brenda Vance. Zhao, stop whining. Mr. Thorne said it's just surface runoff from yesterday's rain. The workers are using sump pumps to clear it out. Don't create panic. Neighbor Lou, Unit 1104. It doesn't smell like rain. It smells like old river silt. And my living room door won't close properly today. The frame is warped. Arthur Thorne, property manager. Everyone listen to me. Small structural shifts are completely normal during deep excavation. The building is settling into its new reinforced base. To ensure we complete the second and third levels on schedule, the contractor needs an emergency equipment fee of $15,000 per household. Please pay at the office by 5 p.m. I sat in my office at the State Geological Survey, looking at the sensor logs on my monitor. The microseismic readings weren't just spiking anymore. They were displaying a classic harmonic tremor pattern, the exact frequency generated when high-pressure liquid hollows out underground caverns beneath heavy structures. The artesian aquifer was dissolving the soft limestone pocket under buildings 11 and 12. The water wasn't just leaking, it was eroding the very soil holding the concrete footings in place. Suddenly my office door opened. Caleb walked in, holding 2 cups of coffee and a thick yellow folder. Nora, he said, setting a cup on my desk. The municipal building inspector's office just received an anonymous whistleblower report about Azure Bay. Was that you? No, I replied, taking a sip of the coffee. I haven't sent a single email. Arthur probably pissed off one of his cheap subcontractors over payment. Caleb opened his folder, sliding a set of high-resolution aerial drone photos across my desk. I had my drone team fly over the site this morning. Look at Building 12. I looked at the high-definition photo. To an untrained eye, the building looked fine. But to a geologist, the truth was blindingly obvious. The exterior brick facade on the south wall had developed a hairline diagonal crack stretching from the second floor down to the foundation, a classic shear stress fracture. The entire 14-story concrete tower was tilting south by approximately 1.8 degrees. How long do they have? Caleb asked quietly, his eyes dark. I pulled up the regional weather forecast on my secondary monitor. A massive, slow-moving tropical depression was scheduled to hit the coast in 48 hours. The forecast called for 6 inches of rainfall over a 12-hour period. When that rain hits, I said, my voice cold and steady, the surface water will fill the upper drainage basins, raising the subterranean hydraulic pressure by at least 40%. I looked up at Caleb. The confining layer will burst. The soil will turn to liquid. And buildings 11 and 12 will fall into the dark. Friday night brought the storm. Torrential rain slammed against the glass windows of my penthouse apartment, thunder rattling the sky. Inside, Leo was sleeping soundly in his room, wrapped in a plush blanket, the soft hum of the white noise machine lulling him to sleep. I sat in the dark living room, watching the live video stream from a public traffic camera mounted on the street corner outside Azure Bay Estates. By 11 p.m., the WeChat group went completely insane. Brenda Vance. Audio 005, screaming there is water coming out of the elevator shaft. It's shooting up like a fountain. Arthur, where are you? Neighbor Chun. The basement wall collapsed. The excavator is gone. It sank into the floor. Arthur Thorne. Everyone remain calm. Do not panic. It is just a pipe burst. I am contacting the repair team. Do not run. Neighbor Zhao. A pipe burst? The whole ground is shaking. My living room floor is cracking open. Run. Everyone get out. At 11:42 p.m., the traffic camera feed captured the final, terrifying catastrophe. A deafening, guttural roar, like the sound of a freight train rushing through a tunnel, echoed through the storm. Under the blinding flashes of lightning, the manicured green lawn between Building 11 and Building 12 suddenly bowed downward, folding inward like wet cardboard. A massive 50-foot wide sinkhole opened up in a split second. The high-pressure subterranean aquifer, swollen by the storm, erupted through the breached basement floor. Millions of gallons of liquefied mud, silt, and roaring groundwater burst upward, washing away the weakened concrete footings of Building 12. On the screen, the entire 14-story structure groaned. A sickening series of loud, metallic snaps, the sound of heavy steel rebar, snapping like dry twigs, echoed across the neighborhood. Building 12 tilted sharply to the left, its foundation slipping 6 feet straight down into the muddy abyss. The glass windows on the lower 4 floors shattered simultaneously under the immense structural torque, raining sharp shards onto the churning mud below. Power lines snapped in blinding bursts of blue sparks, plunging the entire gated community into pitch-black darkness. Screams of pure, unadulterated terror echoed through the night. Residents in their pajamas rushed out of the tilt-leaning lobby, slipping and falling into the rising river of mud that was now flooding the courtyard. Standing near the edge of the sinkhole, holding an umbrella that had been blown inside out by the wind, was Arthur Thorne. He was staring at the gaping hole where his $50,000 investment used to be, his face completely blank, his body shaking violently in the freezing rain. Beside him, Brenda Vance was kneeling in the mud, clutching a handful of wet silt, shrieking at the top of her lungs as she watched her multi-million-dollar apartment tilt at a 30-degree angle, its load-bearing walls buckling like soda cans. My phone rang on the glass table. It was an unknown number from the local area code. I answered it calmly. Hello. Nora. Nora. Help us. Brenda's hysterical, sobbing voice came screeching through the speaker. She was using a neighbor's phone. The building is falling. The basement collapsed. There's water everywhere. You were right. You were right. About the river. I listened to her weeping, my face completely impassive in the dark room. Mrs. Vance, I said, my voice as calm as a frozen pond. I remember at the meeting, you said I was a negative, jealous busybody who just wanted to stop everyone from getting rich. I was wrong. I was stupid. Please, Nora. Brenda screamed, the sound of blaring police sirens howling in the background of her call. Arthur lied to us. He told us you were just trying to save your own money. Call Mr. Montgomery. Have his construction rescue team come pull my belongings out. My gold jewelry, my savings, my deed. They're all inside Building 12. I am a geologist, Mrs. Vance, not a salvage crew, I replied softly. And as you so eloquently pointed out, I don't even live there anymore. I clicked the end call button, blocked the number, and set the phone back down. Out the window, the rain continued to fall over the ruined, muddy graveyard of Azure Bay Estates. 3 days later, the Azure Bay sinkhole disaster was the lead story on every national news network. Building 12 had been officially declared a total structural loss and was condemned by the State Department of Building Safety. Building 11 was heavily damaged, its foundation compromised beyond repair. Over 60 families were left homeless, their life savings buried beneath 20 feet of mud and collapsed concrete. Luckily, because the collapse had happened slowly enough, over 30 minutes, no residents were killed, though dozens suffered broken bones, severe hypothermia, and chemical burns from sewage leaks. On Thursday morning, I walked into the State Superior Court building. I was not a defendant. I was the chief expert witness called by the district attorney's office in the criminal prosecution of the state versus Arthur Thorne and Apex Earthworks Construction. The courtroom was packed to the brim. In the public gallery sat the former residents of Azure Bay Estates. They looked haggard, broken, wearing cheap donated clothes from the Red Cross. Brenda Vance sat in the front row. Her hair was messy, her face hollow and aged. 10 years. She had lost her apartment, her car, which was crushed in the underground garage, and her entire life savings, which she had invested into Arthur's illegal scheme. At the defense table sat Arthur Thorne. He was wearing an orange prison jumpsuit, his hands handcuffed to his waist. His arrogant demeanor was completely gone, replaced by a twitching, terrified desperation. The state calls Ms. Nora Sterling to the stand, the prosecutor announced. I walked up the wooden steps, placed my hand on the Bible, took the oath, and sat gracefully in the witness chair. The prosecutor approached. Ms. Sterling, please state your profession and your history with the defendant. I am a senior hydrological geologist with the State Geological Survey, with 10 years of field experience, I testified, my voice carrying clearly through the silent courtroom. Until 4 weeks ago, I was a deeded homeowner at Azure Bay Estates. The prosecutor pulled up a set of documents on the large display screens facing the jury. Ms. Sterling, can you explain what these documents are? These are the original geological survey maps of the Azure Bay District, conducted in 2012. I explained calmly, pointing a laser pen at the screen. As indicated in red zone alpha, a high-pressure artesian aquifer runs directly beneath Building 12 at a depth of 16 meters. The confining shale layer was less than 4 meters thick. Did you inform the defendant, Arthur Thorne, of this danger? Yes, I replied. I presented these exact maps during the HOA preliminary board meeting 6 months ago. I explicitly stated that any excavation deeper than 4 meters would breach the hydraulic seal, liquefy the subsoil, and cause a catastrophic foundation collapse. A furious, weeping murmur broke out in the public gallery. Brenda stood up, tears streaming down her face, pointing a trembling finger at Arthur at the defense table. You bastard! Brenda shrieked. She told you 6 months ago. You told us she was lying. You told us she was just jealous. Order in the court. The judge slammed his gavel down sharply. One more outburst and I will have the gallery cleared. The prosecutor turned back to me. Miss Sterling, if you knew the disaster was imminent, why did you sell your home and leave? I looked directly at Arthur, then turned my eyes to the weeping neighbors in the gallery, because when I tried to present the scientific facts, Mr. Thorne and the board accused me of fear-mongering and attempting to sabotage property values. I testified smoothly. Mr. Thorne presented a voluntary investment agreement, which explicitly stated that all participating homeowners assumed full legal and financial risk for the excavation, while waiving all claims against the management company. I pulled a certified copy of the agreement from my portfolio. Every resident who signed that paper effectively funded their own destruction, while waiving their insurance rights. When I realized they preferred greed over geology, I sold my property to Montgomery Real Estate and removed my son from danger. Arthur's defense attorney tried to jump up. Objection. Relevance. Overruled. The judge spat, glaring at Arthur with disgust. The prosecutor stepped closer to the jury. Ms. Sterling, in your professional opinion, was this disaster an act of God? No, I said, every word hitting the courtroom like a hammer. It was an act of gross criminal negligence, fueled by unadulterated fraud and human greed. The trial lasted 4 days. With my geological data, the cloud-saved seismic telemetry, the illegal kickback, receipts found in Arthur's private bank accounts, and the signed voluntary investment agreement, the verdict was unanimous. Arthur Thorne was convicted of grand fraud, commercial embezzlement, gross reckless endangerment, and 24 counts of safety violation manslaughter. Risk. He was sentenced to 22 years in state penitentiary without the possibility of parole. Apex Earthworks was dissolved, its executives indicted, and its remaining corporate assets seized by the state. As for Brenda Vance and the neighbors, because they had signed Arthur's voluntary agreement, waiving management liability in exchange for direct equity participation, the insurance companies officially denied all property damage claims. They were left with 0 homes, 0 savings, and massive joint liabilities for the environmental cleanup costs ordered by the city. 3 months later, it was a bright, cloudless Saturday afternoon. I stood on the rolling green lawn of the new Montgomery Research Institute of Geosciences, a brand new $50 million facility built on the northern hills of the city, co-founded by Caleb Montgomery and myself. I I was the vice director of hydrological safety, leading a team of 20 young geologists dedicated to monitoring urban ground stability across the state. Mommy, look, I built a mountain. Leo came running across the grass, holding up a small clay model he had made in his art class. His cheeks were rosy, his eyes bright, his body strong and full of life. There was no dust, no coughing, no dark concrete, and no cruel hands reaching for him. I knelt down, wrapped my arms around his small, warm body, and kissed his cheek. It's the strongest mountain in the world, baby. Caleb walked over, holding 2 glasses of lemonade, handing one to me with a warm smile. The news just reported the final disposition of the Azure Bay site, Caleb said, quietly, sitting on the bench beside us. The city officially seized the land. They're turning the sinkhole into an artificial storm retention pond. The whole complex is officially erased from the map. I took a sip of the sweet, cold lemonade, looking out at the vast, beautiful skyline of the city stretching into the horizon. In my past life, I had tried to carry the weight of 60 people's greed on my back, and it had crushed my son into the pavement. In this life, I had learned that you cannot save people who are determined to drink poison just because it's served in a golden cup. Some people have to fall into the abyss they dug with their own hands. Mommy, Leo grinned, pulling my hand toward the playground. Come play with me. Coming, Leo, I smiled. I stood up, holding my son's warm, living hand, and walked forward into the bright, unyielding sunlight.